Hey everybody, it's Emily the Crazy Worm Lady. I am here today with our sand versus eggshell bins for an update. So I took these lids off and the eggshell bin, a little bit damp but not bad, but you can see condensation built up on the inside. But then we look over here, our sand bin is really wet, and I'll show you the lid real quick. Like ultra wet. So it's interesting. I'm gonna grab a little tripod so I'm not shaking all over the place to get these videos done, and we'll pop in and we will start in our sand bin and see how things are coming along. Okay guys, so here is our sand bin. Not sure, just trying to see if there's any signs of babies on our newspaper. Sometimes when they hatch, that's where they would be. And I'm feeling like we're definitely gonna have to start getting some babies pretty soon here, but I'm not seeing any immediately. So I will pop that off here and let me see what we have. There we go. So I think this was like 2 weeks ago feeding. Camera never wants to focus, but it looks really nice in here, getting nice and composted. Very little unprocessed bedding, really. It's looking really nice. I'm very pleased with that. The moisture, I think, is finally starting to regulate a bit in here, simply because as the castings build up, the castings are much better at retaining the moisture, and that's, I think that's a baby. Thought I saw one. But the castings retain moisture a lot better, and so I think that's definitely going to help keep the moisture more consistent in here. I'm actually gonna have to be careful since this bin seems really wet. But as I look through here, I'm not seeing many worms. I'm not seeing any cocoons, at least as of yet. So I guess it's time to just get down and see what they did with our feeding, and perhaps there's some cocoons down there. So let me see here. See how I can shift this light, because you know I have been struggling with getting my light situation good, so hopefully this will be better. And we fed, as you can see right down here, I don't know why my skin always causes such a glare. It tells you how white I am. So pale. Seeing sand particles, but nothing really on our toilet paper roll. But here's where we had fed, and this was citrus, if you guys recall. And it smells divine, but I think you guys can probably see some of these worms are definitely juvenile. So I think we are having some hatching of some cocoons. You know, even though I don't always see cocoons, you know that they're in here. I'm seeing a lot of springtails and things like that as well, but those are all actually just signs of a healthy bin. I really am not a big fan of using my bare hands in the bin, but this is like just chock full of baby worms. I see some pot worms as well. That's probably just due to the acidity, and they're taking a little bit longer to break this down. But the fact that all of the worms don't seem bothered by it makes me think I probably shouldn't worry a whole lot about it either. But pot worms are those little teeny tiny white worms right here. See some beetles too. That's okay. There's very few really in my bins right now, so I'm not really surprised that they decided to have a field day with this citrus. I might dump a little bit of neem cake in here. That usually seems to fix my problems up pretty fast. And I've mentioned before, a few people have said it's going to be very hard to know for sure because there's calcium in so many foods, if the calcium actually has an effect on these worms and their reproduction. But I'm really not worrying about it a whole lot. It's just fun to see side by side, starting with 50 worms each, and see how the bins mature. But I'm not seeing cocoons, but as you could tell by that citrus piece, there is a lot of what am I looking for? There are a lot of cocoons that must be hatching, because there's just worms all throughout here and a very good number of juvenile worms. There's actually not as many mature worms in that area that I would have anticipated. So I'm going to grab a handful of neem cake, sprinkle that across the top to try to deter some of those beetles from getting out of hand, but they certainly don't look like they're much of a problem right now. And then we'll hop over and take a look at the eggshell bin. All right, so here we are with the eggshell bin. We'll do the same thing, kind of a quick rundown, take a look through here. It's interesting, I'm noticing that some of this newspaper is starting to disintegrate. I don't know if that's worms, if that's springtails. A lot of the other little microbes and little helpers in the bin also break things down. So that could be some springtails working in there, and it's starting to... Babies. I'm so excited we're finally seeing babies. They could actually be starting that breakdown process. So, still seeing some worms back from our feeding from 2 weeks ago. I'm trying to remember exactly what that was. If it was the sweet potato, not really 100% certain, so I won't say for sure, but the smell in here is really nice. Is that a cocoon? Oh, if it was, I missed it. But again, things are looking nice in here. Moisture feels good. All those castings now able to retain the moisture. Always makes life so much easier. Since I did add a handful of neem cake to the other bin, I will also do that in here, even if I don't see any issues with the little grain beetles, just to keep everything equal. But I'm seeing more mature worms in here than actually in the other bin. I don't know where all the adults were in the other bin. It's like all the babies hatched and now the adults went MIA. But I'm definitely not going to feed these today since there's still a very good amount of food left. But I just wanted to give it a good look over, and hopefully we will see a lot more babies on this orange piece as well. If you guys haven't figured out, I've got like a serious overabundance of citrus lately, so do what we gotta do. Use it up. So in here, it looks like it's a good mix of springtails, beetles, baby worms, adult worms. This is fantastic. I'm actually really pleased. For once, I can actually say I'm not overly upset about the beetles. I really feel like I figured out a good way to maintain their numbers and keep them in check, so I'm really just not worried about them anymore, and I know that they're actually beneficial in our bin, so just try to go with the flow. I'm so happy I finally reached that point. It took me a long time to really accept some of the extracurricular activities we have of other bugs in here, but the fact that they don't leave the bin and things like that really kind of puts my mind at ease. The longer I've done this and I've realized that there's really no issue related to that, I've lightened up a lot about it. Okay, so I'm just going to even this all out, make sure our citrus stays covered down here, and let me get my neem cake. And a few people have mentioned to me that they've tried the neem and it smells. It does. It has a very odd, kind of dried oniony type smell. It's not exactly pleasant, but just like most things in the worm bin, it starts to get broken down so quickly, and with the lids on you really don't smell it. But having that nice mix in here will hopefully bump down some of those beetle numbers. So that's going to be it for today. Like I said, no feeding. We'll give them another week to let them finish up the citrus. You never want to overfeed a bin, especially if you're seeing some critters that you don't really want around. You want to let them work through it, and it will gradually fix for you. I'm trying to... Little guy was climbing the side. So definitely seeing a lot of encouraging action in here. Finally seeing tons of babies. So excellent news. We'll give it another week. So drop those comments below, like this video, subscribe if you'd like some more content from me, and I'll be back with you guys next week for an update. And I hope you have a great day.